All right. Okay. I want to talk about this real quick. If you haven't already seen, I put out a short that said, I asked the question, you know, what could you possibly learn from the Tyrie Nichols situation, um, as a concealed carry or self defender, right? And I kind of put this out as a teaser because excuse me, wow, I really wanted to hear about people's perspective. I wanted to hear about what they were going to say, and I had a lot of expected reactions and a lot of expected people talking to me about it. Um, Not so much on YouTube, but where I've put this before. But essentially, I don't have to really go through all the details of the case because we have heard about this before. We know what's happening with the particular case. Hold on, let me get comfortable here. But basically, what happened was, this guy was pulled over. In a nutshell, he was pulled over. The police tried to, police attempted to arrest him at first. There was some tasers, there was some use of force that came out. Long story short, he ended up running, getting away, and once he got away, they eventually caught up with him again. They handcuffed him, and then the crazy stuff happened. So, to keep it short and sweet, I want to say this, okay? That's a horrible situation. It never should have happened. Those police should definitely be accountable. But the point that I want to make when it comes to concealed carry, self defense law, when it comes to you as a self defender, when it comes to this case, the very simple thing. First, a lot of people were focused on their political affiliation that they couldn't see what I was trying to say in the short. And of course, I kind of laid it on, and people didn't understand. But at the end of the day, the biggest lesson that I think concealed carry people who carry concealed and use firearms as self-defense, one of the biggest lessons is one, making sure that you're using reasonable force. Okay. You're using reasonable. When I say reasonable, that means what would a reasonable person do, right? So, for example, if you were walking through the neighborhood and all of a sudden you heard or all of a sudden you seen this big saber-toothed tiger come from somebody's backyard, then a reasonable person would probably run, right? um but it has to be reasonable. The force has to be reasonable. So when you look at the Tyrie Nichols, there's two things. There's the force has to be reasonable, and two, once there is no more threat to you, then you must stop. Okay. The force must be reasonable, and you could only use the force that stops the threat. When the threat is no longer a threat, you have to stop. Okay. So when we look at the Tyrie Nichols case, when they did catch up with him, they handcuffed him, right? So when they handcuffed him, this guy is in custody now. Okay. And what happened next was a brutal beating of a one unarmed, number two defenseless person. Right? If you guys have saw the video that happened, what was it, Dallas or Houston or something like that? Um, in Dallas, I don't remember, somewhere, or maybe it was San Antonio. I can't remember, but there was a recent shooting of a guy that was robbing people inside of a restaurant, and there was a armed citizen who actually took it upon himself to pull his weapon and shoot this guy. Okay, now here's the thing about this particular case. What I've discovered is a lot of people that I'm friends with and associates with, and stuff going on social media. I realize that people haven't seen the whole video. So what happens in that video when the guy shoots this robber in Texas is he shoots him. The guy tries to get away, but he goes down. The armed citizen then walks up to the man. Okay, he walks up to the man and put more bullets in his face and his head. Right, he shoots the guy in the head. Now, no, on the video, the guy is completely down. He doesn't appear to be as much of a threat as he was standing up. Right, but the guy is critically wounded, and the armed citizen goes and puts some rounds into his face and head. Now, when we talk about reasonable, was that reasonable? Right? Flip back to the Tyrie case. Was it reasonable for what, 4 or 5 police officers to beat a handcuffed person? Right? Think about it. You've handcuffed them. Don't really matter what they did at that point, but you've handcuffed them. You've made them a non threat to you. And then you come and then you kick them, you stomp them, you punch them, you knee them. That tragically, this person ends up dying from the injuries days later. Now, if the police officers were smart, which I don't think they were smart, maybe they are so smart they probably didn't think that they would actually get caught. But if they had any common sense, they would realize that this young man was no longer a threat to them or to the public based on the fact that he was already handcuffed, he was exhausted, blah, 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 blah. Right. So I say that to say this: when you are a self defender and you're talking about carrying a concealed weapon, right, for your actual defense, it's a huge responsibility. And if you don't understand what is reasonable force, right? Because some people are using their firearms when they probably should have, ran away or probably should have used their fist. See what I'm saying? What would a reasonable person do if you have, as a concealed carry defender, shot someone, right? Let's say you've shot someone. And just like the man in Dallas in the restaurant, if you decide to take it upon yourself after the threat has already been neutralized to do more, just like those police officers in Tennessee, Memphis, if you take it upon yourself to do more, then you are going to be legally liable for that. Okay. So some of the answers that people were throwing out with this question was, you know, yeah, comply, 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 comply. I'm not talking about compliance on the end of Tyrie. I'm talking about reasonable force on the end of the police officers. There are going to be questions for that. They're going to be questioned for that, and hopefully they're going to be held accountable. Just as you are going to be questioned for your actions, and just like you are going to be held accountable for your actions if you get in a defensive shooting or if you've used self-defense in a way that has caused grave bodily harm or death to someone else. This is true. This is fact. So when it comes to that question about what correlation does the thing that the situation that happened to Tyrie and you as a concealed carry defender, it is reasonable force. Looking at things that if this person is no longer a threat to you, then you have to stop doing what you're doing. Reasonable. What is reasonable? The district attorney and a court and a jury, they're going to do the reasonable person test. And guess what? The person who they're going to be having doing the reasonable test is not going to be a buddy from what's the place called, from your shooting range. It's not going to be a buddy from your little gun group or whatever. It's not going to be that person. It's going to be somebody totally different that's going to be doing this reasonable test. Okay, so that's what this is about. That's why I put this topic out there. I think it confused a lot of people. I think a lot of people they were so stuck in their condition of their political views and how they feel about police and how they feel about not complying, all this crazy stuff from every walk of life. It was a little bit of confusion, and I needed that. But at the end of the day, this ain't got nothing to do with compliance, not in the sense that they're thinking about. Has everything to do with what's reasonable, right? What's proportionate to the threat, right? Are you using reasonable force? It's proportional. Like, if the person is in handcuff, y'all, you can't. Come on now. So remember that, because the reason why I say this is because emotions, you're not preparing for your emotional state when you get into a conflict. Most people are not preparing for that emotional state, that adrenaline dump, that tunnel vision, right? The audio visual things slowing down. They're not preparing for that. So instead of you shooting 2, 3, maybe 4 rounds to stop the threat, you've emptied a 15-round clip magazine in this person when they were down. you're going to be held responsible for that. So my encouragement to self-defenders, and I'm going to do a lot of talk about self-defense law, right? I'm going to do a lot of talk about it, but everybody, me, I can give a damn about what kind of gun you got. I can give a damn about all the bells and whistles you got. You know what I mean? How you built this platform, what red dot you got. I don't even care about that. But if you don't know when you have to use your, or when you can use your gun and how you should use it in a self-defense situation, none of that matters. None of it matters. So I'm encouraging you to sit down, think about what's reasonable force. Put yourself through some scenarios in your head. Always remember that the body can never go where the mind has never been. That's the truth. So at least on a daily basis, take a few minutes, think about some scenarios. Some could be the worst case scenarios. But if you're carrying a gun every day, you should be doing the what if game. You should be doing crisis planning, which I'll talk about more later. You should be doing those things to try to at least prep and prime your brain and your mind and your soul and your spirit to get ready for an encounter if it was to happen. So, with that being said, this is a new channel. I would love for y'all to like, subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. Please share this video. I will say this, I'm new to this, but I can tell that the algorithms on YouTube don't really like firearms that much. Maybe this video, maybe me saying this in this video might give me docs too. So, but anyways, man, thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for coming in. Please, if you're just coming on, please go back and listen to this. Uh I really wanted to make a point when it comes to reasonable force and tying it into a well-known case to show people proportionality and reasonable force. So, reasonable force. So, thank y'all again. Take care. Peace and blessings. Have a good night. Stay safe and stay vigilant. Peace.